Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Yes, hello there, family.
This is huge, guys. We haven't seen a statement like this before, and we're going to see another statement after this that is also very, very concerning. And of course, we want to put it out there that everyone should be sending the intention out for peace, for the people of the world to wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, realize what's going on here. And, time and time again, I still see people that say, we can't stop this. This is the will of God. It's all just written out. It has to play out this way. Well, this is not the will of the creator of everything. The creator of everything doesn't want death and destruction and, chaos and all this loosh created, this energetic misery that created for these, certain beings that tend to feed off this. Not at all. So the statement is, China says is now ready to defeat the U.S. militarily. As you see, Beijing issues the deadliest war warning yet.
Yeah, that's really concerning. We're definitely keeping a close eye on this for you guys today.
Most definitely. And we've had a busy day working on people, and we've seen great progress.
Yes.
I mean, just amazing progress. And, Yeshua said, greater things you will do. And, that we do feel, he said. And this is the time frame that we live in, is when there's all sorts of possibilities opening up all around us. And this is why we see this. It's all about pulling us into a lower vibration, pulling us into a lower frequency. And if they can't keep their herd, they're going to be just like a spoiled brat child that's playing a game and building a castle and then just tears it all down. I'm going to knock all the blocks down, knock all the dominoes off the table, and, throw a tantrum and run away. That's basically what they're going to do in a much more militaristic, horrible sense. That's what these powers that be have planned. Because if they can't keep control of us, they can't control our mind, our hearts, keep our abilities down, then, if they can't have us, nobody can have us. It's like a jilted lover type of thing, but in a more sadistic, twisted sense, looking at humanity again as just something to be owned. Just look back, to the Sumerian tales of, why are we here? Well, according to the Sumerian tales, Homo sapiens was created to be a slave race for the Anunnaki and the Igigi. That's the purpose. And that's the mindset of so many people that still follow these traditions and the indoctrination of just thinking that, we're born into original sin, there's nothing we can do about it. We just have to throw ourselves at the mercy of God. Well, or change the wording, the mercy of the Anunnaki, the mercy of the Draco, of the reptilians that control all this. And so, we see this, as we've been sharing, this time feels different. And the guides, even before all these things were happening, were telling us this is different, and the likelihood of real conflict has been increasing. And here we see China has pledged to rapidly defeat the U.S. in a military conflict, and one of the country's most explicit warnings yet, China's Global Times, which is seen as a government news outlet, published an editorial revealing the threat in a response to joint military drills carried out by the U.S. The U.S. joined drills with Japan, Australia, and France this week in an intended show of force against Beijing. However, instead of backing down, China appears to have been rattled, prompting a fierce rebuke in Beijing's state-run newspapers, asserting confidence in China's military superiority. RT America's Alex Mihailovich, said the Global Times put out an editorial saying that the U.S. would be defeated if any conflict broke out in the South China Sea. Many see the drills as a show of force aimed at China as Japan works towards consolidating military alliances in an effort to deter its neighboring superpower. And we've seen breakdowns in any sort of dealings between China and Australia, and our family members there have shared with us it does feel very, very ominous there and kind of inevitable. So, this time does feel different. So we need to definitely keep waking people up, putting those positive prayers out there, working on the last person. I was mentally calling on Saint Germain, which we had talked about, Archangel Michael and Yeshua, to help not just with the person that we were working on, but also with the whole global situation. And then I got a whiff of the flowers again, just telling me, hey, we're here. We are here. We're here to help, but you got to ask to receive. And so, this is different. Many people don't realize that China now has the biggest navy in the world, bigger than the US as well. And of course, when we're talking any sort of conflict, it will be China and Russia together. And as we've said before, more than likely Iran and Pakistan and North Korea, and there will be others that will be joining them in militarily as far as cooperation goes. And then if you look at the statement that came over here, Putin calls Gaza crisis direct threat to Russia's security interests. That's a statement you make when you're basically telling people that you may intervene, you may get involved. As you see, Merkel condemns anti-Israel protests. At a moment, the United States is blocking the UN Security Council meeting and statement on Gaza, delaying it further to next week, given Israel shows no signs that it's ready for ceasefire talks following an earlier overture from Hamas. Multiple world leaders have issued their own statements demanding urgent de-escalation, and we have called for a ceasefire, particularly French President Macron, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and Russian President Vladimir Putin. And we're having another conversation with another one of our dear family members, and I was saying I almost feel like Trudeau and Gavin Newsom could be like brothers. And she said, yeah, you could throw Macron in the batch too. They just all have that same vibe, almost kind of clonish in some ways.
Yeah, they have very much the same frequency, like they're being controlled by the same, dark force.
Most definitely. So we are rapidly seeing this escalation get very, very out of control. And as we had said, is this quote unquote Ezekiel 38? And there was a comment, so you don't believe in prophecy? Well, I don't believe that it's coming from the creator of the multiverse. No, I think that it's more in lines with a script. At times, people can, and anybody can with enough work, tap into timelines and seeing probable, possible timelines. Again, prophecy, quote unquote, does not belong to any one tradition. What about, we could go into all these different mythologies. We could talk about, well, gosh, this feels like Ragnarok's coming. We could go into the Hopi prophecies, which literally say that missiles come out of the sky and burn the U.S., and that the U.S. is going to be attacked by the countries from which the ancient wisdom first sprung, such as like China and the nations of the East. So, there's not one lock on prophecy by any one group. And, in reality, there's tons. We've seen, Edgar Cayce and Nostradamus, and we could get into all these different people that you might not know as much, like Peter Dunov, that we've had contact with as well. After doing a few videos, he came by in a spiritual guide manner. And, he's a wonderful being that's still working for the light from the higher dimensions right now. We could talk about Mother Shipton. We could talk about cultures all around the world. The Australian Aborigines. We're returning to Dreamtime. Yeah, we're heading back up into basically a 4D and eventually into a 5D existence where we can manifest things just like you could if you're lucid dreaming. So, not one tradition has a lock on anything. And it doesn't mean that the creator of the universe has a preordained, preset plan, especially when you look at the outcome. And, I'm going to go into bigger depth there as well. Dark side hackers reportedly closing down after retaliation routs their infrastructure. So a dark side announcement stated they lost access to their infrastructure, including their blog payment, CDN servers, and would be closing their service. Poor guys.
Why? I don't understand this. This just doesn't make sense to me. And usually when something doesn't make sense, it's just not true. So they're closing. They're the ones who hacked and did all that work, and now they're saying they're closing their service.
Yeah. It's, again, to me, it feels comic book almost.
Yeah.
It feels just like, you're being sold this bill of goods. And, when we had talked about the Russian hack and stuff, again, I know there's people that just come in, they'd never ever, watched a video that we've done in the past, which, we're probably closing in on 4,000 videos. So they might not know if we don't explicitly state that we feel there are puppet masters behind all this. So everything that we read, that we say are the quote unquote facts and figures, is the facts and figures in the news that they give us. You have to use your discernment. You have to open up, the chakras, get the kundalini going, have your third eye activated, which is going to happen to many, many people. And, unfortunately, it's going to be a lot tougher, if not almost impossible, if you follow certain things that the power brokers want to happen. Then, well, we could reiterate, they found that there's this God gene, quote unquote, that enables people to sense like the oneness. And you know what? It could be turned off.
Mm-hmm.
It can be turned off. And then spiritually, you're just like a blind person in a room that's soundproof and has no walls within reach. You're just out there grasping and can't feel, sense, see, touch.
And you stop having that desire to sense anything of a higher nature.
Exactly. Very rooted in 3D, where the power brokers can keep you and can utilize you in this 3D, 4D loop.
Yeah.
So the Coast Guard reopens lower Mississippi River after closure sparks massive barge jam. Can we talk about infrastructure here? This is all coming together so clearly. And as we had said before and alluded to, all right, let's take Congress, for instance. Hundreds of people in Congress. What percentage of them understand what's really going on? Maybe single digits, if that. It's probably very, very small. And I think that there's more people awake that are in this family and other families like this than there is, politicians. Yeah. Only at the very top do they understand what's really going on. And as many of you may be aware of, even the president is on a need-to-know basis when it comes to certain knowledge.
Yeah.
So you see traffic alert here. We're stuck on this I-40 going into Memphis, in West Memphis, Arkansas. And this bridge, the Hernando de Soto Bridge, was shut down. And there was a fracture. There you go. And of course, this all leads to just massive chaos with, again, supply chain.
Yep.
The writing is so on the wall. The stage is so set, as we see here, for dramatically higher inflation. Transportation costs spike even higher. Yes. An all too perfect storm that we see going on everywhere we look right now to an all new level. Thousands flee homes as Israel continues air raids in Gaza. UN says 10,000 Palestinians have been forced out of their homes in the Gaza Strip as the death toll from Israeli strikes on the enclave reaches 122, including tons of children, women as well. It's just a horrible, horrible atrocity that we have going on right now. And why do I, keep harping on certain things, like, not thinking this is the will of God? Because atrocities have come, horrible atrocities, in the name of religion, where people have been controlled and led to do horrible things. Look at the killing of tens of millions, perhaps 100 million indigenous people in the Americas. Well, the church was saying, don't worry about that. You're saving their souls. They're better off now. They're better off now. Meanwhile, their lands are taken from them. All their belongings are taken from them. People are abused in atrocious ways. And go ahead.
Well, the what's really sad is that the church is going and doing all these murders and pillaging, and they're saying, well, they are the savages.
Yes, they call them savages when it's extermination on the highest level. And we talked about the witch hunts, which really is hunts for natural healers, people with intuitive abilities, people that are not going to go along with the status quo, people that question dogma, doctrine, and indoctrination. Well, they got to be labeled heretics, and then, they can be pushed aside or swept away, at least their ashes. And so when we look at the Crusades, again, this is why it's so dangerous to have a fundamentalist mindset. It's deadly and dangerous because you're manipulable.
Yep.
You can be manipulated and controlled, and have been. Israel initially confirms then denies ground troops entered Gaza. So, this again, we are seeing an uptick that it does really feel could lead to expansion to other countries getting involved. Hamas attacked Israeli chemical plant with Shahab suicide drones, and the technologies that will be used in what's now upon us and coming will be technologies that we haven't seen perhaps since Atlantean times. As we see, the use of drones, we're going to see the use of lasers. And I recognize that, there's been a lot of talk about fire from the sky in many different circumstances, and sonic weapons as well. It's very scary, the situation that we have right now. But yet, working on the clients today and feeling such help from the guides, from these beautiful benevolent beings, it was just blissful, absolutely blissful. My heart was expanding so much. And I asked Cindy, what do you see? And you saw like the energy waves emanating from the heart chakra outward.
Yes. It looks like a sound symbol, like circles or several bullseyes going out, 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 out. But what was really prominent was the very center of everything was just huge.
Like the Sri Yantra.
Yes.
Would you say?
Yes.
Very much like the Sri Yantra. Yeah. In circles.
Mm-hmm.
So we can see if we could tap into that type of frequency and send that frequency out. That's when we can get people to awaken and just say no. But it's going to take the people that are actually pressing buttons, actually doing this stuff, to say, no, I'm not going to be a part of this. I'm not going to incur this karmic debt. And I'm not going to inflict atrocities on humanity or any of the beings that are living on this planet. Israeli military razes Gaza to the ground. Another tower fell. It's, as we said, it just keeps going up and up and up. Not that it can't have brakes put on, but nothing ever gets solved. And as long as you have two sides that are so, in many senses, at least some of them are so firmly religiously indoctrinated into the philosophy that their side is righteous and the other side is not. Their side's righteous, the other side is satanic. It's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for atrocity. The Gaza conflict spillover. Israeli army struck Syrian Lebanese border. Yes, it's most definitely. We are in times where we really got to send out those energies with an urgency. Because right now, if all this wasn't going on, this manipulation, we would be starting to head into what would feel for us a golden age, even though technically we might be heading into a bronze age, so to speak. But after the dark age, it feels golden.
Yep.
What the potential is. And here you see Israeli Jews, Arab stage joint rallies to try to stop the spiraling violence. The only way that's going to happen is if we get enough people to do it that people will not take part in these things. Enough people will say no, throwing down the arms of war and again picking up the plow, so to speak, the shovel, the rake, starting to work together to build greenhouses on massive scales, questioning things like what's that in the sky? What exactly is that you got up there right now, drifting down over our heads? It's time to question, more than question, as people are waking up to the fact that the leadership of the planet doesn't feel very benevolent. In fact, it feels like it's stuck in this nonstop loop.
The spiral of despair.
Yeah, it's time for us to wake up enough to get up and out of it. And at some point, the realization will be there that the level of control and manipulation, which many people will acknowledge on certain levels, they'll say, of course I don't trust the mainstream media. Of course I don't trust, either side of the politicians. But yes, there's only one way to God. Well, there is only one way, and that's through love and compassion, and it's just that simple. Because that will breed unity consciousness. As long as we're putting out any of the ideas of separation, well, we're saved, they're not. That's not the thinking of a golden age. It's recognizing that the body is made up of all different cells, and each has its purpose and its function. Source, again, the true source lies within all of us, and source is just expressing itself in as many infinite possibilities as possible. It takes realization, gnosis, true knowing, to change the planet. And it has absolutely nothing to do with dogma. It has nothing to do really even with political ideologies that pit one against the other all the time, dividing into two different camps. And sure, there are faults on both sides. There are issues on both sides that we may not all agree with. But sometimes there's time to agree to disagree. And that's the only way to move forward. So guys, thank you so much for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Thanks for being part of the family. Make sure you're subscribed to both channels. And if anybody needs to reach us for sessions, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com or EEARTS@protonmail.com. Or you could go through the website, evolutionaryenergyarts.com. And we encourage you guys to develop a daily spiritual practice. Whatever feels good to you, prayer, mantras, meditation, yoga, just being in service to others. It's so critical in these times. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.